should be imposed on the parliament as speaker. Not to say tumulese. It should be as a tumusimbi. You first have to come, then you are appreciated. You cannot be brought. I expect that, like I was invited in Chankwanze, I will be invited to the NRM caucus in the spirit of unity, which we all agree on. And we talk objectively about the agenda of the third parliament, and we agree. I've been called a visitor in NRM. As a visitor, you must recognize boundaries. And the head of the home can change the rules anytime. The head of the home can say lunch will be eaten at 10 a.m. Supper will be eaten at midnight. As a visitor, really, you have very little to say about that. The visitor can say all lights must be switched off by 8 a.m. and the visitor has to comply. That one I accept. So, what I believe is that there should be clear processes. But if one is locked out, then you feel that you have not been treated well. I'm glad the president intervened and I was not locked out of Chankwan. I believe I'll not be locked out of facing the caucus, which is the caucus of the voters. Let the caucus be the ones to pronounce themselves and say, in our considered opinion, for the following reasons, this is the person we will rally behind. I still believe I have an opportunity and a chance to be the speaker. You know how I think. One day somebody told me, are you sure you can be speaker? What chance do you have? Then I said, by the way, if I'm on the top floor of a very tall building and the building catches fire, and I'm told that I have a 1% chance to survive if I jump, I'll jump immediately. I've not heard anybody saying Mao has no chance. There are those who are saying the former speaker was too big to fall. But that's the same false evidence appearing real. That's not David's logic. The logic of the generals who ran away from Goliath was that the guy is too big, there's no way we can beat him. David, with his sling, turned that logic upside down and said, the guy is so big I can't even miss him. That's the logic with which I approach this fight. Others are saying, too big, how can we manage? I say, oh, too big, how can I miss? Even with a butida. Let me now speak about the opposition finally. Life is very ironic. The opposition should thank me. You were supposed to be walloped. You heard it. They said that in the last parliament you were swallowed. That in this parliament you are going to be walloped. You should thank me for this. Now, this is my thinking on the opposition. And that is why the NRM should not think they are risking anything. The first question is Mao a patriot? And that question should go to the Patriotic League of Uganda. Because even among them, they have unpatriotic people. Because you don't just become a patriot by wearing a league. That I have seen some of the most immoral people wearing the biggest rosaries. They're even the first in the line for Holy Communion. So let other people talk about it. That's why I say, is Mao a patriot? When I was risking my life to go and talk to God, was I doing it for myself and my family? I wanted Uganda to be peaceful. When I was campaigning so that President Museveni's votes are a block where I come from, was I doing it for myself? It's because I don't only preach unity, I practice it. I have been to many countries, Congo, Rwanda, Burundi, Kenya. We have been the biggest advocates for IPOD. That is because we are not dead fish. We swim in a direction we believe is right. And sometimes you pay a price. That is what DP is known for. And that's why we are respected. Our leader was killed. Our party was hated here in Uganda. Simply for telling the king of Uganda that don't enter into partisan politics. And he refused to listen. And you saw it ended in tears in 1966. We have 5 years of the I don't want a situation where people will say, Mao warned us about improvising a speaker. So, to my friends in the opposition, being opposition is not a badge of honor. It means your votes were not enough for you to form the government. That's what it means. But I hear some people take a lot of pride. They even quarrel. We're only opposition. I mean, it is like you have a loser's cup and you say, no, you can't come and help us carry the loser's cup. Honestly, what sort of politics is that? Being opposition means you have the loser's cup. Now, nobody celebrates the loser's cup. I think in football, the loser's cup is the one they say, the one of third and fourth position. So, they take so much pride. Oh, you see opposition here. It's like saying, you are not one of us who lost. People are fighting to be winners, for you are fighting that you losers are already enough. The only way you can be winners is if the losers keep becoming more and more. Then you become more than the winners. Then you become the new winners. So there is some mental illness in some of our leaders, which I see. Because I've seen some people had been hired to attack me and so on. All of a sudden, when things change, they are not looking good anymore. DP has a PhD in opposition politics. Because we have opposed and opposed and opposed, and yet we were the first government before independence. Some of you young DPs have even forgotten that your party has ever been in power. You have been threatened so much, you are so timid that you can't even walk upright. Stand up and walk upright. You are heirs to a proud tradition. If the president of Uganda is not ashamed to introduce himself as a DP, though he says that his DP is not the one of Mao, I need to find out which one was easy? He says, no, that is DP of Mao. Maybe because of the bickering and the small thinking in the DP. Because if you have people whose only thinking is Mao Yafuna and Safuna, that's the reason why they are running around. But it is not true. There was a time they also funad, only that they have forgotten. There was a time they also got. And Mao was leading his normal life, not complaining. The Baganda say, Yagaliza ofune. Atayagaliza tafuna. Because I was doing Okwagaliza, that's where I ended up in the cabinet. But to make that a matter of life and death to the extent that you want to tear your party apart, you look at the way the opposition is. FDC came from NRM. They then said Ukishamuntu is a mod. He left. Then those who remained again disagreed. That means Ukishamuntu was not the problem. Now you have PFF. So a party which was solid like FDC now has 10 members of parliament. 9. It was, in our place there, it was the biggest challenge to NRM. Now, after NRM, the next party is big. Then, we had our friends in DP here. They said Mao is a dictator. He's not leading the party well. That he's a mole. He doesn't want to work together with other opposition. That this is a party for their grandfathers. And Mao is an imposter. That my umbilical cord was not buried in their graveyards. So they left. They went to NUP. They reached there, then they quarreled. I wasn't there. So was I still the problem? So I have given advice to our sister party NRM, and just advice. I'm in no position to direct anyone. I've also given advice as an elder to the pressure group of the PLU. Now I want to talk to, and in that I said, if you are really serious about the position of speaker, who should you listen to? Which radio station should you tune in? Should you tune into NRM FM or PLU FM? I think you're better off tuning in. You can tune on both, but you need to pay more attention to the other one. Because that is the party that had a symbol in the election. That's what I would do. Now, the parties that don't get sufficient votes to form the government are the ones called the opposition. The opposition does not mean anybody who is a nuisance, then you're opposition. Otherwise, the robbers and rapists would also say they're opposition, because they're opposing the law, they're interfering with the peace and tranquility. Opposition is based on the results of the last election. The goal of the opposition should be to defeat and replace the party in power at the next election. I took this from some of the notes I prepared. Remember, I was supposed to give a speech in Japan, a speech which was aborted. So I took this paragraph which I'm sharing. In our constitution, that opportunity to replace the party in power comes every 5 years. So the opposition can do this through small successive victories, and that would then reduce the faith of the public in the government. So that in the next election, the electorate is persuaded to put them in power. Now, this is where DP is different from other parties. Listen carefully. Even though the role of the opposition is to bring about the defeat of the party in power, there is little merit in an opposition party making its main job to obstruct the government's efforts to perform the task it was elected. Let me repeat this. Even though the role of the opposition is to bring about the defeat of the party in power, there's little merit in an opposition party making it its main job to obstruct the government's effort to perform the tasks it was elected to perform. After all, when a party is given the right to govern a country, its duty is to promote the welfare of the people. So, once again, power must have purpose. You want to be speaker, for what? What are you going to do with the position? You want power, for what? You want to be president, for what? There are people even who wanted to be president of the party. For what? So that you do what? So that you call yourself Senkagari. For me, I want to be the speaker because of the reforms I'm going to introduce. And I've already mentioned some of them. We discovered that the Parliament of Uganda sits for less than 90 days in a whole year. Sitting of plenary. Under Mao's leadership, the minimum number of days must be 120. Number two, we must have a calendar of Parliament set at the beginning of the session. The moment I'm elected speaker, we will have to sit in a multi-party committee and set the calendar for the Parliament so that we reduce surprises and uncertainties. The government will tell us their timetable and say, by March we are going to bring this law. By July we are going to bring this law. August we are going to bring this law. So we are all mentally prepared for it. Number three, I'll ensure that a special session is held annually, and the agenda of that session must be based on suggestions from the public. It should focus on issues the public want. First of all, the majority of members of parliament are not in touch with their public. So we may as well directly invite the public to suggest what you want us to talk about. You want us to talk about the Ugandans that are being exported as labor. You want us to talk about land conflicts, land grabbing. You want us to talk about teenage pregnancy. The public should have an avenue. We also want the Prime Minister's question time to be a very serious session to ensure that Parliament upholds the principle of government accountability. It shouldn't be an empty ritual. You know, some of the questions that we hear, a member of Parliament asks, question 1, is the Prime Minister aware that bridge XYZ has collapsed? If so, what is the government doing about it? Then answer. Honorable, government is not aware. 2, question 2 does not arise. After all, we are not aware, so you can't ask us what we are doing. That's what I call an empty ritual in question time. And that's why the role of the leader of opposition is very important, to face off with the leader of government issues. Airtime must be given to elected representatives of the people. The speaker must not be interrupting members If you go to the Hansard, the presiding officers of the House have spoken more words than most of the members of parliament because they want to make a comment on every speech. It is like a referee wanting to touch the ball also. How can a referee want to touch the ball? If the other team is lousy, so be it. You can advise them after the sitting and say you played very badly. The moment the leader of opposition has spoken, automatically the presiding officer should say, leader of government business, do you have anything to say? Since parliament is going to have technology, for the first time, no member of parliament will hide in the chorus of I and no. You will know exactly who voted on what issue, who supported which issue, and you, the media, will go and say, somebody can say, I never supported that thing, You go to the record of votes, because the moment the speaker says, the votes are now open, everybody presses, yes, no, and the record goes there to be stored for eternity until Jesus returns. We had that circus in the last parliament. We had this Toji Quarter for lifting the age limit. Many of the members in the opposition were playing double. They are holding meetings and saying, we have no problem with this law, but how will our people, our voters, see us? To the extent that when the speaker suspended some members, others went to lobby, please suspend us also. Otherwise, too far, to ground too far. So the next day, the speaker brought a supplementary list. In addition to those that suspended yesterday, I hereby suspend the following also. What sort of parliament is that? What is that, leadership or dealership? Leadership. Now, we also want some specific dates when the opposition sets their agenda. The opposition go around saying, for us, we have no say. But these guys are many. When Mao is speaker, Mao is going to say, opposition, you also represent a section. Now, what is important to you? Bring it on the agenda. No hiding. No hiding. Because they just keep reacting. Ping pong, ping pong, ping pong. How can you have politics of ping pong, ping pong? We cannot have ping pong. When are you going to initiate also? This time the government says the ping must come from your side. We are also going to do the pong. So start. Like in a game, they say you serve now. You are saying that I'm bringing a bullet. You now bring your bullet and you see. That is what will happen when Mao is speaking. I'm telling you these things to show you that I'm not just seeking to be speaker because I want to wear that horse hair and call myself Right Honorable Speaker. I have thought about this thing carefully, and I'm doing it only for this time, the next 5 years, to save Parliament. The other idea that we have, I've already talked
Ekyo kye bayita kitegeeza buli Muteeso mwamugambye nti Anita atulwaniridde ne batuwa buli omu, they are going to give us our cows back.
Ate baatusuubiza ebbanga nene naye kubanga tetulina muwala waffe gye tutumya wali musoozi.
Waliwo vidiyo ze nalabye eggulo zabadde z'abavubuka babiri abateeso nga nabo bawanda omuliro lwakuba bye babadde boogera nabadde sibitegeera naye nga byabadde Muteeso.
Kati nze Deshi Rwanda kino kye nkugamba mazima abavubuka b'Eteeso kati President Museveni agenda kuleeta ekintu bwe kiti kale Abanyankole namwe mubeere eyo. Kati naffe twafunye chance okugamba nti obwakabaka bw'Eteeso ensonga Ssamasonga 5 ez'Eteeso naffe twasindise wali Anita Amongi kati ate mutandise tujevuna. Kati Buganda erina ensonga z'amasonga 5 naye erina abakolako komiti ey'Obuganda. Ankole erina komiti yaabwe. Lwaki eyaffe twali tulina Mukula ne mutugobayo. Mukula naye ne mugamba nti mubbi. Kati twali tetulina omuntu atutuusaayo. Kati bwe twafuna Anita yadde mubbi tetubimanyi. Ffe tetubimanyi ffe nannyini mwana. Omwana waffe yave waffe nga si mubbi. Ogamba otya nti mubbi kyokka yali akolera ggwe. Yava kuyisizaamu etteeka katikati mumwonoonera erinnya takyasobola kutambula abantu wonna. Mwayisiza etteeka y'ekisiru mwamukozesa. You malicious her image. Kati mutandise ogamba nti mubbi ku lwa Royisi. Eteeso ani akomplaininga nti Amongi yatugobye mu ttaka. Tewali. That means mwayingiza empisa envundu ku mwana waffe. Ate mutandise omujjevuna mugezeeko tulinze tulaba wano ne excitement gye tulaba mu social media nosanga omuntu Anita nga yabbye nnyo n'asinga